I'm not done. Matter of fact, this fight, I warned you, even if President Trump doesn't prevail in this, it's not over. Tucker Carlson did a segment last night. It was a good one. Folks, it's a warning we all need to hear. I'm going to cover later in the show the Pennsylvania stuff I teased yesterday and the Georgia stuff because there's a lot going on, but this is critical. This is more of an overview argument here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at a critical time. There are things happening right now under our noses, in some cases right in front of our faces, that if allowed to continue to their logical endpoint, we won't have a country left. No, I'm not kidding. The country will be unrecognizable from the freedom-loving constitutional republic you grew up in. If you were going to implement a 4-point strategy to destroy the republic, decimate the conservative movement and freedom and liberty-loving patriots with it, how would you do it? Well, folks, what would be the first step? First step would be to make sure that your political opposition, not necessarily big corporations or whatever you call them, I mean your political opposition, working people, dirt under the fingernails, people on the ground, that were your political opposition were bankrupted. Not going to think much about politics if you can't feed your family, right? Kind of witnessing that now, aren't we? Successful small business owners owning restaurants, bars, nightclubs, churches, by the way, which still need money to operate, although they're nonprofits, being bankrupted because you won't allow people in the pews. You bankrupt your opponent, you get them thinking about eating. You're not much thinking about voting when you're thinking about eating, right? That would be step one for me. And while you're bankrupting your opponents, by the way, through lockdowns, endless attacks, trying to destroy their credibility, sending in health inspectors constantly, you'd also want to enrich your friends, the political opposition as well, wouldn't you? Because it doesn't do you any good if you don't have rich friends to support you while bankrupting other people who have money and may support political causes themselves. That would be step one. Step two would be you'd want to decimate and destroy election integrity as well, right? You can't have elections where you might lose because the people who you pissed off, if I may use such language, they may actually vote. Matter of fact, many of them did. But you want to make sure that you got an insurance policy in the election too. The insurance, what do you mean, votes? No, I don't mean votes. I mean a process in the background, just in case the election was like free and fair and you lost. Step three, of course, you'd want to use the government. You'd want to weaponize it to attack and destroy your opposition. That hasn't happened. It's not like they spied on a presidential campaign and started fake investigations with them based on a PP tape. Never happened. Oh, sorry, it did. Or maybe using people with law enforcement power to target groups like the NRA. That didn't happen. Oh, of course it did. And maybe step four, shut down any political speech by monopolizing the new public square. What's the new public square? Well, of course, social media, Google, Twitter, and Facebook. Tucker Carlson summed these 4 points up. This clip is about 1:30. He summed up these 4 points last night beautifully, where he made the point that the election was rigged through these 4 points. This is an absolutely terrific take last night. I want you to listen to this, and we're going to discuss on the way back how exactly we fight back, because I'm not going to sit back and take it. Check this out.
The media allowed them to do it. At the same time, beginning in the spring, Democrats used our public health emergency for nakedly partisan ends. They punished Trump supporters for trying to gather, but they exempted their own activists, rioters and vandals from BLM and Antifa, from the COVID lockdowns entirely. They said this out loud. The restrictions they did enforce crushed America's small businesses, the heart of the Republican Party. And yet they made their own donors fantastically richer. Jeff Bezos alone saw his net worth jump by more than $70 billion during the pandemic. Then Democrats used the coronavirus to change their system of voting. They vastly increased the number of mail-in ballots because they knew their candidates would benefit from less secure voting. And they were right. They used the courts to neutralize the Republican Party's single most effective get-out-the-vote operation, which for generations had been the National Rifle Association. Not enough has been written about this, but anyone on the ground saw it. Thanks to legal harassment from the left, the NRA played a vastly reduced role in this election, and that made a huge difference in swing states like Pennsylvania and others. But above all, Democrats harnessed the power of big tech to win this election. Virtually all news and all information in the English-speaking world travels through a single company, Google. A huge percentage of our political debates take place on Facebook and Twitter. If you use technology to censor the ideas that people are allowed to express online, ultimately you control how the population votes. And that's exactly what they did.
I know a lot of that's depressing. I understand. I get it. I read your emails. I read your Parler posts, your Twitter posts, your Facebook responses. I don't read all of them. I can't, but I read as many as I can because I want to see what you're thinking, because this show is for you. It's not for me. I'm only one person. I know what I'm going to say. I'm me. The show is for you. I know a lot of you are mad. I know a lot of folks, even in Georgia, getting ready for a special election, like, what's the point? Ladies and gentlemen, there's always a point. Whether you agree with that point is up to you, but there's always a point. The left never gives up. You don't have to like them. I certainly don't like their dopey, silly, destructive ideas. But they don't give up. Right after Election Day, when Hillary Clinton lost, they were out there with their hats on by the tens of thousands, screaming in the street like raving lunatics. We can't give up either. I'm not done. Matter of fact, this fight, I warned you, even if President Trump doesn't prevail in this, it's not over.
You just heard Dan Bongino.